The energy and enthusiasm it takes to make a successful habit is completely fruitless if your effort is to just get to the end result. Unless your willpower is phenomenally high for whatever reason, it's less than likely that you'll stick to a habit that needs repetition, repetition, and repetition if you don't formulate a plan. But a well laid out plan doesn't always work out. Life happens, and that is why I have created this next phase for this video. Imagine that you want to lose 3 kilos. Sounds simple enough, but you need to be able to create a habit in order for you to achieve the goal. But you don't know where you need to start, and your goal needs to have a start. So, before you make a commitment to the goal, let's step forward in time for a moment. Let's imagine that you wanted to lose that 3 kilos within 6 months. And let's also imagine that that goal to lose that weight in those 6 months has failed. But why did it fail? What you need to be able to do is you need to be able to write down a list of things, such as a pre-plan, if you like, of things that are going to fail you. In order for you to achieve a more successful goal, you need to be able to write down some things that are actually going to interrupt that goal or interrupt that habit. The list doesn't have to be complicated. It could be simply just some trigger words that remind you of things that could possibly go wrong, such as if you have young children and they have things like sweets and cakes in the house, that you need to make sure that you're not tempted to be able to go into their treat cupboard and raid the cake tin. You need to be able to create a checklist that will actually minimize those problems becoming an actual reality. You need to be able to create a tactic that actually does work so that 90% of the time you can still go ahead with the plan to create your new habit. And even if failure happens, make a note of it and avoid it for the next time. Another very common thing that I find with my clients is that they are on a diet and things are going really well. But then they say to me, Chris, I've got to go to a restaurant tonight. I don't know what's in the food. It's a good restaurant, so it'll be good food, but I don't know exactly the macros or the calories that's going to be in it. And again, that should be part of your plan, that you are going to sometimes go out with your partner, go out with your wife, go out with your friends, and you are going to not necessarily be able to stick to the diet that you're actually doing, but it's only a one-off occasion. That should be part of your plan. In a sense, you need to be able to have a scenario in your head of the worst possible outcome. And if you can do that, even to some degree, you're definitely going to benefit from it because you can avoid it and move on. Once you have laid out your potential hazards and misfires, you can then make a start on your strategy to creating a new habit. One that has fail-safes and fallbacks. Now, let's go back to the cookie analogy for a moment. Leave it. You traveled to and from your location to mine to receive cookies. And the more frequently you did that journey, the easier the journey became. In this particular instance, because you enjoy the reward that's at the end of the journey that you need to take to be able to get to mine to receive the cookies actually becomes easier. And because it becomes easier, your brain begins to switch off. It doesn't have to think as hard because it doesn't have to remember the journey. It already knows it. It becomes an automated thing. And that's a good thing and also a bad thing. And it's actually something that you need to be able to remember, the reason why you want to create the goal in the first place, the reason why you need to create the habit. What I mean is that if you create a habit that is going to have a negative outcome for you, such as you putting on weight or you're procrastinating or you're just wasting time, that habit will do that for you. That habit will just keep recycling and repeating. It doesn't really matter if it sort of wastes your time or it makes you put on weight or you don't get any further in something that you want to achieve. It has got no tangibility, if that makes sense. But on the same hand, if you're need, your want, your end goal is a positive thing, something that you really do want to drive towards, that should be in the forefront of your mind as a thing that actually is going to drive you to keep doing the habit. Now, most of the time, a good habit, a good reward, a positive thing is harder to accomplish because it actually takes more structure. As I've said before, it takes a plan, it takes work. But you should really be striving towards something that does actually make you feel like you're going to achieve something. You feel fulfilled, you feel positive, you feel happy that by the time you do get to the end of that goal, once you reach the top of that mountain, that all that work you've done is for you. So the journey to mine becomes easier and easier because there is a reward at the end. And that's absolutely fine. All that is a metaphor for is cycle or recycle or repeat or repetition. Just keep repeating at the beginning of your habit. It's the only way you're going to break into creating, generating a new habit. And as time goes on, it becomes less forced and a lot more easier. So the more you put in effort to create a new repetition and habit, the more likely it is that you will achieve the goal as a result of your efforts at the beginning of the process. But Chris, I actually hate the idea of having to set a goal and start a process and go through the steps. All I want to do is not fail. Okay, so I'm sure you haven't actually probably asked that question, but you get where I'm coming from. Starting something new is, of course, difficult, especially if the goal is a good one and it is created for the sake of achievement or success.
It's the Yo Bossy Week.